That's really good. Do what? All right. Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you back. I hope that you've had a blessed afternoon, a restful afternoon. Let's go to the Lord in prayer before we begin singing. God, we love you. We're grateful for your many blessings and the opportunity that we've got tonight to come together and worship you. We look forward to hearing about what you have done in the lives of two of our young ladies and ask that it would be a blessing to each of us. Be with us here now as we worship you. Ask these things in your name. Amen.
All right, let's turn to page 446. You go. He's in the back. Turn back to 416. We're going to do the first, second, and the last on this one.
Living by do for us each and every day, Father. We just pray now that tonight you'll be with the ones speaking, Lord. Bless them. Bless us all from about to receive. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Turn to page 529. We'll do the first, second, and last. We'll try to remember it. And I picked it out. That's how bad this is. Stand. Let's turn over to 607. We'll do all four of these.
Did you sing all five?
I didn't. I should have. Prince of Peace.
All right. Thank you for your singing. That was good. Good song selection to, I guess, Wade or whoever picked those. We should have sang something about humility tonight, but that's okay. Yeah. Ooh, that was the low-hanging fruit. It's hard to skip out on. Okay, anyway. Tonight you're going to hear from two young ladies that have just gotten back from missions trips with E-Team. E-Team is a kind of a pocket of the Free Will Baptist International Missions that specializes in student missions trips. So each summer they take students to places all over the world, and they'll tell you where they went and all those sorts of things. I didn't tell them this before, but after they get done, Leah, you're going first. Yes, they decided this amongst themselves who was going first and who was batting cleanup, so to say. So Leah, when you get done, I'm going to ask you just a couple questions about the trip. Not a quiz or anything, just and I'll do the same for Reese when they get done. Oh yeah, they're going to need this so that they can be heard. So Leah, if you'll come on and tell us about your trip.
Hey y'all. Okay, I have some notes on my phone, so I'm going to start by thanking everybody who supported me and Reese for going on these mission trips, all of the financial support and the prayers. I'm pretty sure they both went very well. Both of our trips went really okay. So my leaders were Josh and Kimberly Hampton. They're church planners in Montana. That's the only Free Will Baptist church in Montana at the moment. And on my team, I had 5 guys and 6 girls, and we went to Hawaii. So we started at Welch, and during training week, they were trying to prepare us for what we would be encountering, because even though Hawaii is a part of the United States, it's not like it at all. There's very little similarities. They have a lot of cultures there, so we had to, so we stayed with the Spruills, which was Carl and Cynthia and their 3 kids, and one thing that Uncle Carl told us, that's another thing, they call everybody Uncle and Auntie instead of Mr. and Mrs., so if you hear me referring people like that, it's because that's how I know them. So Uncle Carl told us before we came to not be loud Americans, because apparently we're very disrespectful toward Hawaiian culture. There's a lot of Americans when they go over there, especially the tourists, they're really loud and they focus on themselves, and it's just very different than Hawaiians, because Hawaii is made up of a lot of different islands and a lot of different cultures. I mean, in the church alone, I think there was 14 different nationalities. And another thing he told us was that they don't really like white people that much in Hawaii. So, I mean, you have these group of white teenagers going everywhere. We got called a lot of names, and we stuck out a lot. So he was just kind of preparing us during training week. They prepared us to expect to be pointed out and called out by people, because, I mean, we were the white Americans that were coming over from the mainland, which is what the rest of the United States is called. And so they told us that American culture, or the other part of the United States, not Hawaii, is really invasive and self-focused, and a lot of people in Hawaii don't like the tourists, but at the same time, they can't really make a living without them. So it's like a love-hate relationship going on, because they can't really do anything without them, because that's how they make all the small businesses there, that's how they make all their money, is from the tourists. But the tourists make everything so much more expensive. I mean, one of the houses that we went to was just kind of it was just like an average neighborhood house, and it was $2.5 million. It was crazy. Everything was, and a gallon of milk is $10. It was crazy. There were so many, everything was just really expensive. And another thing Uncle Carl told us was to not draw attention to ourselves while we were there, because we're already going to be sticking out. And he made sure to say that if we were drawing attention to ourselves, then we're not putting the attention on God. We're taking the attention away from God if we're just expecting all of the attention to be on us. So, like I said earlier, we stayed with the Spruills, Carl and Cynthia, and then their 3 kids was Noah, Keola, and Leilani. And they told us how, since they are a white family living in Hawaii, Carl was born and raised in Hawaii, So he knows how to act. He knows everything there is to know because he was born and raised in Hawaii. But the kids moved there when they were younger, and since they were the white family and they were the white kids in school, they were really like discriminated against, and there's like discriminatory, what's the word? There's like, they get called certain names there that would be considered derogatory to us, and Noah, the oldest kid, would be in school, and like he said on his first day of school, he came in and sat down, and immediately sat down at lunch, and immediately the rest of the class moved to the other side of the table because they didn't want to be seen sitting with the white boy. And I can't remember which one it was, but they have a day in Hawaii where it's basically, the gist of it is the Kill White People Day. So I can't remember if it was Carl or Noah, but when they were younger, their best friend just came up to him on that day and just punched him in the face. And like they would just start getting in fights just because it was this day that all of the Hawaiians would look at. I mean, even the teachers would support the kids and like beating up all these white kids because they were white. And everybody, like in Hawaiians, there's like different cultures like Samoan, Tongan, and it's not many white people at all. So with saying that, let's be praying for our missionaries, because even though they are in America and they are in the United States, Hawaii is a totally different thing. And even while we were there, we saw them derogatory remarks were made toward them, and so we need to be praying for our missionaries and supporting them as much as we can. They taught us that we can't expect. One of the main things that they taught us was that we can't expect to have people want to come to church. Like, people aren't just going to walk right into church and be like, hey, I want to go to church. Like, we have to go meet them in the middle, or we have to go meet them where they're at and bring them to church. A lot of times I feel like we want to invite people to church, but then we don't want to go to where they're at. We're afraid, I know me, myself, I'm afraid to go places where I know there's going to be worldly things and worldly people. But if we don't go to those places, how are we supposed to get those people in church? That's one of the things that they taught us while we were there. We met this family who had 7 kids, and they played basketball. The Sproul family played basketball with them for 3 years before trying to get them to come to church, and it was 3 years before they even stepped foot into the church. And they went out and to worldly places and to see worldly people, and just so that they could get these people to come to church. And they taught it, they really pushed that on us, is you can't expect people to come where you want them to come if you're not going to come to them and come where they want you to be. You have to meet them somewhere in the middle. And we also learned that only 1% of Hawaii are true Christians. The other ones there's 18% is Catholic, 10% Mormon, 9% Buddhist, 1% Judaism, 10% other, and then 51% unaffiliated. So that's all of the they worship the land or the gods that made the land, like the volcano gods and that kind of thing. So that's 51%. And so really there's only 1% of true Christians in Hawaii. So it's hard to kind of as a Free Will Baptist church on such a small island, they really stick out a lot. And like I said earlier, there's 14 different nationalities in the church. So we got to meet a lot of those people, and they taught us a lot of things. They showed us traditional hula dances. A lot of the girls from the church did hula dances one night, and they performed with fire knives, where they spin the knives that are lit on fire. And there was a 10-year-old that did that for us. So we got to see a lot of just the different culture and just some of the things that they celebrate that are different from us. And I think one of the kids on my team even said that we went to the Polynesian Cultural Center one afternoon and was just able to see all of the islands and all of the cultures and nationalities and what they celebrate, what they believe. We saw chants in their language and that kind of thing. And one of the kids, and they were really passionate about it. So a guy on my team was like, I wonder how it would be if us as Christians were that passionate about Christ and that passionate about God. If we showed that much excitement and passion for the church and for God, how many people would be coming to hear the word and coming to see what it was all about. I mean, they were so everything they did, they were yelling and chanting, and they were so happy all the time. I feel like if we did that as Christians, then we would see more people coming into the church, and we would see more people wanting to be in church if we would just celebrate God how they celebrated their culture. All of the people at the church were extremely nice and inviting. They sent us home with so many gifts. There was even one lady brought us 12 boxes of pineapples, and we had to go through security with all those pineapples in the airport. And they were all just so inviting. They would stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning just sitting and talking with us. They just wanted to hear all about the mainland, and they wanted to hear about our lives and what brought us here, how we were enjoying things. There was one night we went to this fundraiser, and one of the girls, she was in high school, took two of my friends and was like, because we weren't sure what we were supposed to be doing, so she took them and was like, here, let me make your plates. And she was like, I think you're going to need 2 plates. And then started stacking up all this food on their plates and then set it out on the table and was just sitting there watching them eat, because they were just so excited to for us to learn about their culture and just the different things that they did. She just sat there and watched them eat their food and was like, do you like it? Do you think it's good? And she was just so excited about it. There was also a lady there that was every single Sunday or Wednesday when we were there, she would be taking pictures, and she would be like, come over here and take a picture. And they just wanted to remember it and remember our time there. And we did a VBS for 3 nights. So I know we do 5 nights, but they did Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday they had a carnival. And at the end of it, we had 7 kids get saved, which was good. And we just kind of did it how we do it. We take them to different stations and everything. But there was a lot of kids that were asking questions. So it was exciting to kind of be a part of that and teach them about God and what really matters. So I think that's about all I have. I mean, I had a lot of fun, and I definitely learned a lot about the different cultures. I wasn't really expecting Hawaii to be as different as it was. I knew it was going to be kind of different, but, being a minority, seeing all of these different nationalities and all these different cultures is a really eye-opening experience, because they see things so differently than we do. They don't, getting people into church is a lot harder in Hawaii than it is here, because I think within the church, within 2 miles of the church, there were 4 different other religions, temples or mosques, I think is what it is called. But it was just within 2 miles of the church. And there's so many different religions there. And everybody that you meet is a different culture, a different nationality, a different religion. There's so many different things. So it's a lot more different than it is here. So I do think that I want to go into ministry of some kind after being in Hawaii for 3 weeks. But I'm not sure what that is going to look like. I am going to Point University coming up, so I'm hoping that'll kind of help me to figure something out. But I want to go into ministry of some sort, so y'all just be praying for me making decisions. Be praying for the Sproul family and all of our other missionaries, the missionaries that Reese stayed with. So, yeah, that's all I have. Oh, goodness, I forgot about this part.
Okay, so I've got a few questions for you. You mentioned there are only 1% of true Christians.
Okay.
Just define for us.
Okay.
I think everyone is on the same page. Okay, what do you mean by a true Christian?
Well, they told us before that there was 29% Christians in Hawaii, but then after they broke it down, it was, I think I said it earlier, I think it was 18% Catholic, 10% Mormon. There was only 1% of evangelical Christians. Yeah.
And the Mormon population in Hawaii is pretty significant, the influence of Mormons in particular in Hawaii. Okay. Is there anything about the trip that you took that highlighted the need for the gospel in other parts of the world? Are there any particular moments where you're like, man, this is a real need. It's not just something that we talk about as a church, but it's a tangible thing that needs to happen.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of poverty and a lot of homelessness there. So everybody sees the tourist pictures, like the beach and the palm trees and whatever. But most of Hawaii is really poor and in poverty, and the homelessness there is very high. There's a lot of homeless people there. And so we did get a flat tire one day and had to stop on the side of the road, but right there on the side of the road happened to be a church, so I think that was a God thing. But we stopped there, and the guy was telling us about his church and kind of what he does, and he has a rehab center kind of. He had like a home off the side of the church, and it was for people recovering from drugs and alcohol and just other addictions, and he would provide them with homes and they would have to like keep up the church, like the landscaping, and have to clean the inside of the church. So he provided homes for those people that are trying to get better and want to have a relationship with God. So I feel like that was one of the things, like, people need homes in Hawaii. There's so many people that are homeless. I mean, I feel like we need more people down there providing places like that for those who want to get closer with God.
I've just got 2 more questions,
All
and then
right.
you'll be done.
Okay.
You mentioned the Spruills and their life there. Getting to spend a significant amount of time with a missionary family, is there anything that stood out to you about their life as compared to the life of just your everyday church member here in the mainland, as you call it?
Yes. I would say that, I mean, they're church planners, so like they work in a church plant. It was the Waipahu Free Will Baptist, and so everything they do, they're always trying to get people to come to church. I mean, they go, like, me personally, if I'm going to the store, I'm going to go to self-checkout because I don't want to talk to anybody. But they would purposely go try to have a conversation with someone, and they're always trying to, like, go places. And, like, they played basketball with that one family. It took them 3 years to get them into church, but they never stopped. Like, that's their entire life was based around trying to get more people to come to this church, because their ultimate goal is to be able to leave that church and let it thrive on its own, not have to rely on them. So, I mean, everything that they did was trying to spread the gospel, trying to get people in church. I mean, everywhere they went, everything, like, they were always trying to let people see that light of Jesus in them.
Okay. Second question is, you talked a lot about food. Tell us a little bit about specific foods that you may have never had before or never even heard of. Was there anything you absolutely loved, anything you hated?
Let me tell y'all, I had rice with every single meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, every single meal. I mean, it wasn't bad. There was a lot of I had never eaten, almost everything I ate was new. I didn't really eat any chicken tenders or anything there. You know, there was one thing called chicken katsu. It was pretty good. It was just like rice and a specific type of chicken. I honestly can't explain it to you. But there was a lot, like every single meal they would go out and they would get us like Korean barbecue or something else that was like just crazy I'd never had before. So it was fun trying everything, but every single meal we had rice. Every single meal. So.
Thank you, Leah.
I'm very nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually really nervous. Okay, so I've been to the Virgin Islands before, but I did not go to St. Croix. I went to a vacation spot in St. Thomas. So going into this, I was like, I've been to the Virgin Islands before, I totally know what's gonna go on, like, we'll do some work, or we're gonna play too. And that was not it. So Leah talked a little bit about training week. It was at Welch, and pretty much every day we would just wake up, eat, and then classes. And we would just learn the culture and, like, different things for them to get us ready for, and, like, what we're going to do when we go. I'm sorry, I can't make eye contact. Anyways, what we're going to do while we were there. And I got a little bit lucky. St. Croix, most of them speak English. There's a dialect called Crucian, which should be its own language. You can't understand it at all. But we were lucky, and one time I was told, it was like 3 days after I was there, a kid that lived there, his name was Amoy, who stayed with us. I said, well, can you teach me how to speak Crucian? And he said, no. And I was like, oh, well, why not? And he was like, you just don't. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he said, we have a switch. And I said, a switch? And he said, most of the time when we see white people, we just flip that switch and we talk to y'all in English. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you. Anyway, so I went to St. Croix with my leaders, Maddie and James Christian. And there was 9 girls on my team and 3 boys. So the girls kind of ruled it while we were there. And so St. Croix is a U.S. territory, literally nothing like you could ever imagine. It was so different. Out of the however many long weeks we were there, we had AC a few times. When we were lucky, on Sundays, we had AC in the church. The church was the only building that had air conditioning on the campus. We stayed at a place called Free Will because it's the only Free Will Baptist church there in St. Croix, so it's just called Free Will. And it's also a school, also called Free Will. And so we stayed there, no air conditioning. And we just hung out with the pastor. Jean and Angela Wooten are the missionaries that live there, and they have youth pastors because their church is kind of big. It was about 100 people on a good day. It was about the size of ours. And they had a youth pastor, Carol and I don't remember his name, Monday. And they lived there, and they lived on top of the campus. And so for 3 weeks, I had no air conditioning, and sometimes we had no water. Sometimes we had no electricity. When we stayed at the church, we woke up every day, and we'd eat breakfast for a little bit. There's a thing called island time where you genuinely have no time what you're going to do anything. There was no guessing on when you were going to do anything. We'd wake up at 8, expecting breakfast at 8:30, and breakfast would already have happened at 7:45, and we didn't know. And so we'd work for a few hours. Most of the time we just painted classrooms and like helped out with just the school and like landscaping and stuff like that, or we'd go in the community with people that went to the church, people that didn't go to the church, and we would just kind of like help out anywhere in the community. We picked up trash on the sidewalk in downtown Christiansted. We went to a lady's house. We helped her. Just doing like the basic things. We went and worked a camp for a little bit with the kids that went to Free Will, and there was 18 of them, and it was amazing. It was so good. I think that was where my eyes kind of got opened, and my heart was hurting for the people of St. Croix, because everybody that lives there wants to leave. And I'm going, and I'm like, why would you want to leave? This place is pretty cool. It was beautiful. Everything about it was so pretty. But everybody there, all the kids wanted to leave. And one night, there was this like music room, and at the bottom of a sugar mill. So we're sitting in a sugar mill. It's hot. Literally felt like it was 8,000 degrees. And I was talking to these kids, and they were like, yeah, we just can't wait until we turn 18 so we can leave. We want to move to Atlanta. And I was like, why would you want to move to Atlanta? I live 2 hours away from there, and I never want to go. But there's just this mindset that all these people have that live in St. Croix is, I live on an island. I can't get away from the island. I want to go do things, and Atlanta seems cool on social media. So everybody wanted to leave. And it hurt. A lot of people wanted to go join the military because they would tell me, I just feel like I have no purpose here. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything here. I'm just living on this tiny island. And St. Croix is small. It takes 27 minutes to drive from one side to the other. It's very small. And you get to know everybody, like when you live on such a tiny island. 25% of St. Croix is evangelical Christians. I totally think it's way smaller than that. There's another religion on the island, which I don't remember the exact name of it, but these people worship this guy named Jah, J-A, and you can tell when you are a Jah follower because of the clothes that you wear, and you wear this big, like, hat thing that's, like, has stuffed all your hair inside of it, and, like, there's specific colors, and pretty much they believe that everyone, like, everything on the world is dedicated to Jah, and it's his in the first place, so they'll just come and one night we were sitting on the soccer field, and they just, like, hopped over the fences and came running at us. And they, like, raided there was avocado and pineapple and, like, all of the strawberry, like, all these random plants. And they just raided, like, all of it. And they were like, it's Jaws. Like, we can take it. And so that was a really big cultural difference. As well as the only thing I learned in my cultural class was when you walk into a room, the way you greet people is you say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or good night, obviously. But, like, it's very weird to walk into a room at, like, 8:30, like, to get something to eat, and you're like, good night, what are you doing? Like, that's weird. Like, you don't normally say that. And if you didn't greet them like that, you were rude. And like Leah, our presence was very known in St. Croix. When we were going through TSA to get in, we were questioned. We were all like brought in, and we were questioned about why we were there. We had to have a specific, we're here to help with free will, because you can't say you're on a mission trip, because then they'll think that we're just like snobs. But we were held, and everybody knew where we were. There's a specific example. One day we went to go get presents for home, like tourists, like we were, and I and another girl had to go to the bathroom, and there's not just like public bathroom, like there's not bathrooms just like inside stores like there is here. Like you walk into Hobby Lobby and there's a bathroom in the back. That's not how it is. There's like specific buildings for bathrooms, like way far away. It was, anyways, we were walking, and these two men approached us, and they were like, "Your group's that way, you need to leave." And we were like, "No, like our group's over there." And they're like, "No, your group's that way." We obviously looking in the direction, it's just another group of white people. So they just all thought we were together. And the whole time, everywhere we were, it was kind of like people were looking, just because there was not many white people on the island whatsoever. And if there were, like, it was just different. So our presence was very known, and some people took it great. There was a few, like, there was couples that we met, and everybody inside the church was amazing and welcoming, and they brought us fruits to try, and they cooked for us some days. But some people were like, "Please go away and go home. Like, we don't want you here." It was when we were cleaning trash. They told us that their streets were clean enough, and they didn't need us. A lot of people called themselves Christians while we were there, and it was pretty burdening to hear, like, these kids at the camp. I was in charge of one of the devotions, and when I was talking to them about their devotions, they would answer, and they'd be like, "Oh yes, like I'm a Christian, I do this," and I'd pray with them, and I would just, like, I was talking to them, and then like 20 minutes later, when they were playing football in the front yard, you would just hear the most, like, crazy things come out of them. And it's just hard because there's only one church. There's only one Free Will Baptist Church, but there's not many other churches there, so the kids aren't getting it unless they go for youth group, like, and most of the time the kids only went to youth group to get food because it's so poor in St. Croix. I talked earlier about how there was no AC. It was the hottest time of my life. I have never been more hot. I brought 3 fans, and I got made fun of. But then on the second night, when we were all sweating, everybody was trying to crowd around my bed. So it was very worth it. When we were at the camp, it was the second day of no water, no electricity, and no AC. So I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what has God brought me into? Why am I even here? I want to be back home. Like, I want to be in my bed. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I rolled over and made eye contact with a hermit crab that was crawling up my bed. And at that moment, I was like, I could catch the next flight out of here. I really could. And it was hard. It didn't really get better until, like, the day before I was about to leave. I was like, okay, I can deal with the no AC. And they're like, well, we're going home tomorrow, so you're done. And while we were there, another thing that was kind of hard to deal with and, like, different was the gang presence that's in St. Croix. There has been 20, I wrote it down, there's been 20, not deaths because not all of them have died, but there's been 20 incidents related to gang violence in the month of June. Actually, no, 20 deaths, sorry. It's very dangerous there, like, extremely dangerous. Everywhere we went, we had to have locals with us because people would just, like, walk up to you and be like, "What are you doing here? Like, go away." The prison out of all 3 islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, the prison is on St. Croix. So, you know, that's where everybody comes. And it was dangerous in some places, but I never really felt unsafe. I felt a call, I felt something on my heart when I don't remember actually what I was doing, but I was doing something at the camp, and I remember thinking, how can I witness here so easy, and it's so easy for me to do this here, but at home it's so hard. And I think part of me in the back of my mind was like, I'll never see these people again. I can be as, like, big about Jesus as I want to be. And I think that was kind of what hit me, was like, the mission field is just as big in Columbus, Georgia as it is in St. Croix and anywhere else, in Hawaii and everywhere else that people went. And I think that going on this trip has made me realize, like, how easy it is. It's not scary, and it's not hard, and it's not something so out there to just tell people about Jesus. And yesterday after I got back, it's been so weird to be back, to have a phone and wear shorts and be in a car, have air conditioning, take a shower. And I walked inside Marshall's, after I'd already been there once, had I been back. I love to shop. And I went back, and I just started talking to this lady, and I was like, it was so weird. I just started talking to her, and then at the end of the conversation, we were talking about my mission trip, and I was like, you should come to our church. And I was like, I told her the church, and she was like, well, that's crazy, because I got baptized right across the street at Northside. So this trip has just made me, they tell you when you get there, they told our parents, you're not gonna get the same kid back. That's true for two reasons. One, I'm way more extroverted now. And two, I am not ashamed of the gospel at all. And it's so amazing to spend time with all of teenagers that are from all over the United States. There wasn't anyone from Georgia in my group. And my core memory from the whole trip is one day after church, the first Sunday we were there, we had eaten and we were just kind of hanging out. And all of a sudden we just started singing songs out of the hymnal. We had the same hymnal there. But we didn't use the hymnal. We just started singing old Free Will Baptist songs. And I was like, no way other kids my age know these old songs. But it was genuinely the best moment ever, just looking around, seeing all these people. And I was like, I love you guys. It's so sweet. And if you are old enough to do E-Team, I completely encourage you to. I'm talking to you, Trip Ellison. You should do. It was the best moment of my life. I'm so thankful for you guys, obviously praying for us while we were gone, and the donation for us to go. But it was the best moment of my life. I would go back if I could right now.
Whoa. Okay. Was there, I'll touch on a question I asked Leah. Was there a specific moment, you mentioned, you're at camp and you're sharing the gospel with these kids and they're saying, yeah, we're Christians. And then they go off on the football field and it seemed to be not the case. Were there any other significant moments just being in St. Croix where you're like, man, there are people that need to hear about Jesus other than that moment? Anything that stood out to you?
I think it was the first day that we were actually in St. Croix. We were walking downtown in Christiansted, which there's only two sides of the island, Christiansted and Frederiksted, named after two kings. And we were picking up trash downtown, and just the way that people carried themselves and the way that people would look at you, and when we told them, oh, we're here with free will, the way that sometimes people would just react to that, it hurt a little bit, knowing we were not knowing we were doing the right thing, but we're helping out the community, and the way that people reacted sometimes, it was so negative, and it was just hard to see that, and it was hard to accept the fact that not everybody's a Christian, even though I know that's the same here. It's just hard to realize some people have never heard of Jesus. When we were sharing the gospel one day outside, some people were like, I've never heard of that guy, and that was just kind of heartbreaking.
The other question I want to ask you is, were there any foods that you, similar to Leah's experience, were there any foods that you were like, what am I putting in my mouth right now, or anything along those lines?
I'm very picky, so I had to sign a contract before I left that said I would try anything that I was offered. And I did, surprisingly. I actually did. Because we only ate food from here. We didn't really try much food. There was one day this lady named Miss Williams, who went to the church, came and cooked us breadfruit and barbecue chicken and rice and beans. We had rice a lot, and a lot of fruit. And then we ate at this other place called the Chicken Shack, which is the same thing. The food really wasn't that different. They had stuff called pâtés, which is kind of like a taco with different fish or different meat or different chicken. The only different things, they had a lot of cool fruits I had never heard of, and the drinks there were different. They had a lot of island drinks that were just made out of different fruits. But the food, I think we ate chicken Alfredo 8 times while I was there, and pizza and hamburgers and hot dogs a lot.
Last question. Similar to the question that I asked Leah about the Spruills, was there anything different about the lives that the Wootons live day in and day out that opened your eyes to the lives of the missionaries that we support?
Definitely. So anytime we would go anywhere, obviously we were noticed because we were a large group of white kids. And my leaders were only 20 and 22. So it was just a big group of teenagers. It didn't look like we had parents. It just looked like we were wandering around. And anytime Gene was with us or his wife, people would always say, like, where are you from? We were always asked, where are you from? Why are you here? And not always in a mean or negative way, but people would just always ask. And he would always say, I'm the pastor at Free Will. And then like every conversation I ever heard him have, he mentioned that he was the pastor at Free Will. Everywhere we went, we were in the last Kmart, and he mentioned it. And the way that his family just carried themselves, they weren't afraid at all or ashamed of anything. Like, we were on the beach one night, and he was metal detecting. And he was just like, he found something, and he gave it to this little girl that was sitting over by us, and he was like, I'm the pastor at Free Will. Like, here you go. Where are your parents? I'd love to talk to them, or something like that. And just the way that I've never seen somebody, like, so openly proclaim the gospel, it was crazy. And they were always so nice and so welcoming, like, no matter what. I met them, and I was like, I could be best friends with you right now. So that's pretty much it.
That's it. Thank you. Well, I'll echo their thanks for our church family supporting Leah and Reese. That means a lot to me. There was a small part of me that was a little nervous about Leah and Reese going on E-Team because it was something that Danielle and I kind of introduced them to. And I had this like fear in the back of my mind, like, man, if they hate this or if they really have a terrible experience, like I felt a little bit responsible. So I've been really blessed just to hear the experience that they had. And I'm grateful for our church family and the investment that we make in our young people, not only financially, but also prayerfully, because you can see where these sorts of opportunities can have an impact on a young person's outlook. I want to take some prayer requests before we close out this evening. Now, we're going to close our service a little bit differently because Leah and Ava, Leah just got back, and she's about to leave us again. Leah and Ava will fly from Atlanta to Moore, Oklahoma, which is where Randall University is, one of our Free Will Baptist colleges. And they will be 2.5-ish weeks at Truth and Peace. So we're going to spend some time, we're going to pray for them at the close of our service. So when we've taken all of our prayer requests, we're going to gather around them, put hands on them, and pray over them. But I want to find out from you how we can be praying